guess it's recording right now. It's annoying.
Maybe the secondary click.
Okay, at least it's not lagging right now. So yeah, let's just, I don't know, improv some sort of house, maybe a little cartoony. Just go to edit mode, scale, and then I do. So I think I forgot to mention there's another hotkey. If you can scale based on the axis, right? But you can also scale based on the plane. Like for example, when I only scale in the plane of x, y, and x. So I can press S and then press, instead of Z, I can press Shift Z. So it's basically, that's the Z, and Shift Z is the plane perpendicular to that. So if I want like other plane, I can do Shift Y. Shift Y. So that's in this plane, and Shift X in that plane. So that's very useful. So I can go from this shape as Shift Z, and then I can just scale it out.
I've seen also like people scaling and keeping one of the faces, preventing them from moving, like just the upper face, for example. I don't know if that's really because they have something.
That's pretty silly, right?
No, like for example, if you were to extend on Z, scale on Z, to keep like the lower face just stuck and just like go up.
Mm-hmm.
Does that happen if you actually do Shift Y? That would be the case, I guess.
It always scale from by default. It's scale. You see that orange point? That's your pivot point, and it's in the center of geometry. So if I start scaling, you see it's scaling from the center. Or all the operation, if I rotate, it rotates from the center. So there is also this 3D cursor. So you can change from what's the center for you. Where you can say 3D cursor is my transform center. So now if I scale, it goes to the 3D cursor, or I'll rotate. And that can come in handy in many cases. We probably will use it in a sec. But by default, I think it's either bounding box or like median point. So kind of quickly to turn that structure into walls, what we can do, we can go into polygons. Just select those two polygons. I'm not going to remove them because we will need them for floor and ceiling. So we can just separate them by pressing P. P stands for separate, and then just do a selection. And so now if I go out of edit mode, I have two objects instead of one. Cube, and that other thing I can see.
U stands for separate?
No, P for separate. So if in your edit mode, you can also go into, so if you have selection, you can go to mesh and then they go separate and then do selection.
How did you get, what's the polygons thing? You said select polygons.
Well, there are three modes of selection: vertices, edges, and polygons.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, this is very important, those three things. Yeah. So in vertices, you select vertices, and edges, you select edges. It's kind of hard to see. Let me turn off the light a little bit. So yeah, in face mode, you can select whole face, right? And then you press P to separate it. P, and then press selection. And then you end up with two objects, so it looks like this. I just separated those two faces into separate ones. Also, other useful thing to know is how to hide and unhide objects. So if anything is selected, you can press H for hide, and it will hide it. So in this case, I want to just hide this for now, temporarily. So press H, And it's also like toggle this eye in the outliner. So you can use that as well. So now I just have left with the walls because I don't want to remove this. You can also as well, you know, just if you want to keep things organized, we can just quickly rename it by double clicking it. I don't know, tops, really top and bottom. And to give walls thickness, we can do it real quick by just dropping a modifier on this thing. Or we can also do an extrude. So if you go edit mode by pressing tab. So I'm going to do this, press tab all the time, right? So I can go in and out of edit mode. I'm going to comment on this. So you can select all the faces by pressing A for all. And then press E for extrude. But you see, like extrude, kind of extrude in different ways. So along like particular axis, it doesn't work for us. So I'll undo with Control Z. So go out. So we're going to use the modifier for this. So I click on modifier and I do solidify. So that's on modifier tab, and the modifier called solidify. By default, the value of thickness is really small, but if I increase it, so that's what it does. Just a real kind of handy modifier to have. So I realize it's just for Cartoon House, the proportion is a little off. So I'm going to go back to edit mode, go to vertex selection, select everything, press S, press Shift Z for scale. Just go scale it back down. So now let's make a roof. So for this we actually probably can use our geometry we separated, right? So we're going to go to edit mode, go to faces, select this top thing and press P again and separate selection. So now I have just this plane.
You separated it from the bottom plane?
Yeah. And now I just press E, extrude, press S, and then Y, and then scale this.
It's good the water won't collect so much on the top.
That's right. It's so amazing. We think about it in the 3D, not in real life.
Why did you scale and then why? How did that work?
Huh? Why? What's the question?
You scaled it and then you did why? Like, why didn't you bevel it instead?
Bevel what? I was in this situation right here.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to bevel it. I want to scale it on Y-axis. So like this. And then put it down a little bit.
Oh, okay. You only select the top face.
Yeah. So scale is also useful if you want to move things around. So for example, like I can select, well in this case it doesn't matter, I guess I can scale this whole thing. I'll just scale this on X a little bit.
But could you have gotten the same shape of the roof by beveling it? You started with the cube, right?
Yeah.
Could you have beveled the sides and ended up in the same?
Maybe, yeah. Let's see.
That would be 4 seconds.
There's always more than one way to do something. So extrude. So he's saying instead of scaling, I can select those two edges and use what's called bevel tool.
You end up with
Yeah. So if I click and do this, it's not the same, but actually I like it better. Yeah, your approach, because I end up with this thing. But what I can also do on my shape, I can now go and then I just bevel those things. So I can Control B for bevel. But see, it's a little bit different now. This is a straight, this is an angle, depending what you want, what your final result. You see?
Why didn't it bevel the other direction? If, like, you see how only left and right sides are beveled, why didn't it do the front and back of the triangle?
Because it didn't select it. Yeah, it's only bevel whatever you select. So I select this edge, I'm going to bevel this edge. You know? Yeah. So yeah, why don't we just bevel is great. Bevel makes your stuff looks like real and just like nice, because the sharp edges are really not pleasing for human eye. So why don't we just bevel everything? So we select that and then try to bevel it. Just to verify. Basically, there's one gotcha with beveling. To kind of demonstrate it real quick. So if I have a cube and I scale it on one axis like this. So look what happened. If I take this edge and I bevel it, you know, it's like 45-degree angle bevel. It looks great. But if I take this edge and I bevel it, look what happened. So that's weird, and that sort of makes sense because the object is scaled. It's not doing that bevel in that like one-to-one space, scale space. So to fix that issue, I need to what's called apply the transformation. So this cube right now, if I go to End menu, has a transformation in this axis. So we scale it by 8 units on Y. No, wait, it's location. We scale it by 13 units on X. So a concept of applied transformation is I can take an object that has some sort of global transform and say, all right, the default configuration for this object said that there's no transform now, but keep the shape, please. So if I go to object, apply, and in this case I want to apply scale, but we can also apply auto transform. We apply scale. So you see the scale now is reset to 1. So that transform kind of got stashed or like get rid of. It's like this cube was always this size. And so now if I do the same operation as bevel, it works correctly. So we want to kind of be mindful of that and remember that we scale that object in some way. Let's see. Yeah, so it's like scaled. We do want it to apply a scale before doing any bevel. So if you just notice something doesn't work correctly, it's probably because your transforms are not applied. I do another side as well. And I was just using Control B for bevel, just to do it quickly. So now already kind of looks much more interesting. We can add a sort of like an inset on the roof maybe. Let's do that. Let's go to polygons, select this thing. And let's do it on both sides. So we just do this. I'll do one side first, okay. And then I press E. No, actually, no. So I use this other tool. It's very similar to extrude. It just kind of does it on the flat face. So if you use this tool, it's called inset face. So you can go like this. It's a little bit annoying what it's doing on the edges because I do want like the thicker border right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep it like this. So this thickness, maybe even.
Is it because of the bevel?
No, it's because you see how they go in together? Like this is what tool does. So it's push it inside the contour. And then it's just like there's nowhere to push. Watch in the corner. Right, and then it just, keep pushing it. So we can fix that. If you go back to vertices, and now I can select those 2 vertices and then press AMP, stands for merge, and then I can say add center, So that to just merge those two vertices together. And that's just a very useful tool in general because you can be stitching geometry vertex by vertex. So now I can go back to polygon, select this, and press extrude X, and extrude it inside. So now I did all this kind of like work on this side, and it's really annoying to redo it on the other side. I don't want to do that. Instead, we're going to use like a mirror technique. And also one more thing, like right here I already showed it first time. You can activate this little checkbox called cavity, and it just makes it like a little. It's just a display thing. You'll see your edges a little better, and I just like how it looks. It's pretty good. So I want to mirror it that while I'm working on the side, it's like this side is also the same. So I'm going to go to edit mode, and then use tool called loop cut. It's another useful tool. So loop cut create a loop around like polygon rings. So I can just click it, and it will just create a loop. So now I can just go to an orthographic view from the side. Use X-ray mode with Alt Z, where like there is this icon right here. That's important because I want to select all the faces through of my roof. So I select the vertices, so faces doesn't matter, and then I do X and vertex delete. So now I just ended up with one side of my roof. Keep in mind that the seam is on the blue axis, and that orange point is also on the blue axis. So this will be our mirror axis by default. So now I'll go to modifiers again, and then using the mirror modifier. Boom. So now I can do something with this side, and it will happen to the other side. You see?
When do you choose to apply modifiers?
When I can. I would always choose a modifier if I can, because it's like procedural, and I prefer to keep things procedural if I can.
Like when do you flatten it and apply it to the
I prefer extend it as much as I can. I only flatten if absolutely necessary.
But like, I'm asking like what makes it necessary?
Well, in this case with mirror, right? Let's say I want it mostly the same, but this one little thing needs to be different, and that's part of the mesh. Now I have to like give up the mirror. But in this mirror, most of the time it's like, or like you're modeling the character, you will start with the mirror, you model, and then like it comes to the point where maybe you like working on the jacket, and jacket is not totally symmetrical, and now you're like, oh, okay, I'll do the base of the jacket, but then I have to opt out of mirror and then start doing it.
But you can do another instance instead, right?
You can do an instance, but it's the same as mirror.
But I thought then you can modify the other half independently.
Well, and if it's an instance, it will be the same as the other half.
Right. I thought instance and like isn't duplicate and instance different? One of them is linked, one of them is like a separate.
Yes.
But copy.
Mm-hmm. But you didn't understand the problem. I'm saying those meshes should be different at some point, right? If I want them to be different, and that's why I will have to apply my mirror modifier. So if they're instance, by definition they are the same.
But you just modified one of the vertices and it changed on both sides. That's why I'm confused. Right? Remember you pulled it out?
Yeah, can you formulate the question?
Is this an instance or a duplicate right now? What
you can think about it as an instance.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's done through a modifier, which I 100% underneath is using the same technique, the way it's like implementation wise. So shall we make a window? So the easier, like there's also a couple ways to make a window. We can use what's called Boolean, or we can use a technique that we already know with the loop cut. Let's just try it with the loop cut for now. So we use this tool because loop cut is awesome. So it can do a lot of things. So you can click, and drag, and then you can release. And click and drag, release. And I can do this vertical one, click, drag, release, and release. So that's going to be my window, and maybe let's do like a door inside. Here, do a door here. Release. So those will be those two polygons. So now go select polygons, select those two. We already know that pressing P we can separate them. That's going to be a door. And select this one, press P, separate. It's going to be a window frame maybe. So now go select the door thing, and it's preserved the modifier for us, which is pretty nice. Solidify. So we can just change the thickness of this and maybe inset it a little bit like this for now. And you can do the same with the window frame. Just decrease that, and then just move it in. So I want to position like the door, what's it called, like little canopy roof. So if I press Shift A and then create a mesh, it always created where the 3D cursor is at 0 by default. That's not very convenient because I need to move it around. What I can do, I can press Shift and right click over the door, and that will position 3D cursor on the intersection where my click was the geometry. So that's super convenient because now what I did, Shift right click. So now I can do Shift A again, and then I can create an object, a cube, and it will create precisely at this location. So now I can just scale it. Oops, scale. So not when your scene start getting kind of more or less complex, you have a lot of objects. Sometimes you want to isolate one particular object to focus your attention in it. So there's the keys for that is a /. It's usually by right on the right side of keyboard where Shift is. Depends on your keyboard layout. So if I press that, it goes to a mode called isolate mode. It hides all the other object temporarily. So if I press it again, it basically hide everything. This is super useful because right now I can go to edit mode and then start working on this object. So I select this edge and just move it up a little bit. Okay, just move this down. Okay, it's fine for now. It's the same as height, it's just more convenient for like a single object real quick kind of situation. Yeah, similar way you can start creating like a doorknob. So I like Shift right click it here, and then I do Shift A, mesh, circle, scale it down, and then press R, rotate, type 90 degrees. This thing, then go to edit mode, select everything, press E for extrude, constrain into Y, press A, select everything, scale again. So I want to fill this area. If you double click on any edges, it will select the whole what's called edge loop. So if I do that, I can fill this area by pressing F. So that's create a polygon in there. So I can move it too. It's a weird handle, but I can, maybe improve it. I go to isolate mode, and then I use this edge loops again. So do this and that, and so I go aside. Get to selection, go to vertex selection, enable my X-ray, and then I'll just select them, and then scale.
Can you show them how to did the second step?
So, did what?
How did this one? Diameter.
Oh, it just happened.
Okay.
So you see, like I added a few loops, and then I selected those points.
The second.
Yeah, and then when I scale, it just
Oh, okay,
just
that
happened.
one.
Because it's scaled to this pivot point right here, so it just happened. It might be desired, it might be not desired. If it's not desired, I would like move it like this. For now. And then you can select this edge loop and then do bevel on this a little bit. And you can smooth it, shade smooth. And one thing that I showed the other time that I couldn't figure out because I forgot. So if you shade smooth, it kind of makes it like really lame looking. So there's settings under this data panel. You go to normals and there's auto smooth checkbox. If you click that, so this is the angle. It basically the how large the angle needs to be between two polygons to consider it a continuous shape. For example, an angle between this polygon and this polygon is very small, but the angle between this polygon and this polygon is larger than 30. So that's why this edge becomes sharp. So you can see if I start to modify mesh, at some point where this angle crosses, it becomes sharp. So this is a very big angle.
Do you think subdivision will do the same thing?
Subdivision increase number of polygons. It's not necessarily you want that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually don't want to use subdivision, so I want to keep my geometry like the way it is.
Okay.
So this doesn't modify the number of points.
No.
So when I press / again, so I'm back. Maybe it's alright. Giant handle. It's a cartoon house. Yeah, and then you can start creating other elements like, I don't know, chimney, mesh, just out of box, the box in there. Go X-ray mode, go edit mode, vertices, select the bottom. And the tool we already know is the inset, and then extrude down. And then some bevels. Double clicking, Control D, bevel. Well, really need to be applying my transforms. So let's see, apply, it's called Control A. So if we select this, to Control A, scale, and now I should be beveling nicer. It's kind of annoying thing about Blender. I wish it doesn't do it with the bevel. I think it's kind of like not very useful, and most of the time you don't want to do that.
For an actual chimney, would you want to have that, or is it just a factor?
What do you mean?
If you actually had a chimney, would you really bevel and do all that intricate stuff at the top? For a real house, if you were making it.
Bevel. Well, you get bevel in the real world by just it's there. That's why you're kind of trying to imitate it. You have a brick. It doesn't have like a razor sharp corner. It has like not sharp corner, and because of that the bevel it's here it's like a little exaggerated, but if you're going for the real, you want to be a little bevel, and that bevel catch the highlight, and this highlight is really important for the real stuff. But if you're going for cartoon, like you put larger bevel to kind of exaggerate that the shape, I guess.
On that point, if you wanted to add like a brick surface to the chimney, how would you do that?
Well, you can go crazy and do like model the bricks, right? With like make a single brick and then start, making it real, or you can use a texture. We're not there yet with the texture. So it's will be a little bit of detour to show, but I already showed you how to assign the material, so it's pretty trivial to assign texture to a mesh.
And then for if you wanted to make the rest of the house hollow, so you can go inside the house, you would do it the same way as it should be, or?
We already done that. Remember that how we created the walls? They like thickness, so it's
All right.
But something got screwed up right here. So let's make the window frame. So we go select the window, and we can start renaming things. And go to edit mode and use loop cut a lot here. So you can click create a single loop, but there's also this parameter, so you can actually do 2 loops, and the factor determines where they position. So actually we wanted 0, and we want to spread them, so we can use scale for that. If I press S, C, so I can spread them by just scaling. And do another loop cut. And scale on Y. And do this, and then bevel on the edge. So let's create also double. And do loop cut and drag. So now I need to remove. Well, let's do bevel on this one too. So you kind of get where it's going, right? So select this. Oh, faces remove with X. Is there a bevel modifier? Let's see. Is a modifier? Add. Yeah, there's a bevel modifier. That's really nice because it adds bevel to all the edges by default. That's pretty great. So we can just adjust the. So in order to adjust parameter, if it's really small, if you press Shift and drag, so it allows you to do the precision adjustment. Same with the motion, I already mentioned that. So if you're moving something in the scene and it's very sensitive, so if you press Shift, it becomes like very precise.
What's the difference between using the bevel modifier and just using bevel?
Well, modifier doesn't modify the mesh until it's applied. It's like like you have your mesh, and then you have a modifier, and you can still modify. So if I go to and edit the mesh, see I still, because I have actually 2 modifiers, solidify and bevel. So my actual mesh looks like this. See? So it just like it doesn't have a thickness and it doesn't have a bevel. So we're generating the thickness, and on top of that we're generating the bevel. You can think about it also like if you think in node-based workflow, it's like nodes. So you have a mesh, then you have a thickness, and then you have a bevel. It's like 3 nodes essentially. So and then you can go back and modify the original mesh, and the modifiers just stack the effect of them on that mesh. So you keep that like layered. And that's convenient because you keep your mesh simple in this case. Because if I do bevel all this stuff, now I have all these points to deal with, and if I want to like adjust it a little bit, I have to be able to make sure that they all selected and whatnot. I forgot we need a glass, I guess, as well. We should have made that plane, but since we didn't, the easiest way, we're not going to create a separate plane because it's paying to position it here. So we can select the original window, go select the edge loop around here, and then do Shift D, and then just move it a little bit. So I just duplicated that edge. The second one that you see because there's a modifier in it. So now it's selected, I press P, separate. So now I have this thing, I don't need this modifier solidify, I'm going to, actually maybe I do need it. So I go here and I select them and then press F again to fill. So just create a polygon, and then I can adjust the bevel, the solidify modifier. That's a weird window.
It almost looks, I mean, it could be like, it's two different kinds of windows. It's like one on the left, one on the right.
I kind of want to fix it, so I'm going to just rotate it 90 degrees. Nope. Undo. Rotate X minus 90. Okay. Now go this one, select this edges, and then move it. These constraints. You can move this one, but then it you see a mesh become a little bit ugly. But maybe because the door is using this as well, that's okay. That's okay then. Still don't like it. It's like proportions are weird. So I can scale those things. I'm just like I'll scale the window a little bit. And I can create, if I want to go detail some sort of like areas right here maybe. So if I go select this wall, select this edge, again this technique, it's really nice technique with just like selecting existing pieces of mesh, then doing Shift D to duplicate it. So you end up like here with the line, and then pressing P to separate it. So now you end up with the object. But what's cool about this object is that it's already positioned where I want it to be, and it's exact dimension of whatever I want to create with this thing. So I can select this, and then I can extrude it. Well, it has the solidify modifier I don't need, so I can just remove that. Always use the axis move constraints. So to give it a thickness, go to face, and then press E for extrude. And I scale it. Let's bevel the size. What else do we want to make here? Don't really like how this roof ended up right here. Let's do one final thing with Boolean. So I want like a circle window on the roof, let's say. And circles are kind of hard to make. So far I'll make like all the box type shapes. So I can do shift right click to position my cursor here, Shift A, and then create a circle, then rotate it on Y 90 degrees, scale it, and then go to edit mode, and then go to edit mode, select everything, press E for extrude. It has to be closed shape, so we're going to press F to close that, and then close that. So this is it. So scale it a little bit down, and make sure it's intersecting with geometry. So Boolean is like you think about like subtracting one object from another. So if we select this thing, and I can apply Boolean modifier. actually before mirror, so the order of modifiers matter. And so it said difference, that's fine. And it needs to select the second object, so in this case, this one. And it seems like nothing happened. And this is sort of annoying also thing about Blender, that it applies Boolean, but it doesn't hide that object. So if you hide the original, well, I guess nothing happened, really. So maybe we do want to apply it after mirror because it's like hollow shape. It's a little, this is like, sometimes Boolean can be finicky. It's like it's supposed to work, but it doesn't. And I'm changing the solver, and then it does work. So this is what it does.
What is the solver?
It's the way how it's resolved their intersection. It's like how the algorithm works. I think there's two different, you know, slightly different algorithms. But we do want to kind of do it before mirror because I want to do on both sides. Yeah, okay, that works.
But the other way you could have done that is just extrude in the opposite direction. Instead of extruding out the circle, you could have extruded backwards and it would have subtracted. Or no?
Backwards?
Yeah.
Well, it needs to intersect in order to, I can do a Boolean operation in the mesh.
But like the way you did the chimney was you just kind of had a rectangle on the inside and then you extruded down.
Oh, right, but how do I make a circle? You know, it was a separate object, it's not part of the geometry. So my geometry looks like that. How do I make a circle in here? You know, all I can do.
Curve and extrude and cut.
Curve?
Curve, extrude, and then you cut where the intersection is? I don't know.
There's no circle mesh, you can just add.
I can add a circle mesh, but it won't be attached to the geometry. The point is that all these points, right, they create a hierarchy of, you know, points, and then creates a mesh. So, and in order for like, I can do insert, but it doesn't create a circle. That's a triangle. And there are some techniques to create a circle. You can search videos. There are like videos that show you like 5 different ways to create a circle on the mesh. And you probably want to. There are many cases where you don't want to do. You want to do that, but in our case, it doesn't really matter. So the Boolean is actually the most convenient way, because also what's cool about it that you can kind of also keep it like the same, so I don't have to collapse the modifier stack.
Is there a separate subtract feature then besides extrude, or no?
Oh well, Boolean is the thing if you want to subtract one mesh to another from another. Yeah, and it's like it's one of the most powerful tools in all the softwares for modeling. Blender used to have kind of shitty Boolean that crashed all the time. I think they fixed it a little bit. Now it's better and faster. To do one more thing, just makes the roof a little pretty. It's really flat looking or something. So do shift right click and then create mesh, create a plane, and rotate it, scale. And that's actually what I will show you a modifier that's super useful, like for like what Alejandro is doing. So I'm going to scale it a little bit. Let's actually create like a proper what's it called, like the roof tile, right? So we'll do loop cuts.
Loop cut's your favorite, huh?
Loop cuts is one of the best, most useful tool for, you know, polygonal modeling, because you want to add geometry somehow, and there's 2 main ways: is extrude or loops. So I'm gonna press G. So what's interesting, if I press Z once, it's a world axis. If you press Z twice, it goes to a local axis of transform. So now I can do this kind of stuff. So, and maybe let's try subdivide surface modifier. Nah. No, I don't like that. Keep it like this for now. And maybe move this a little down. Again, pressing wide 2 times. That's a interesting shape. And then we can use our also favorite solidify modifier. So now I have this piece, but I want to fill the whole roof with this piece. So I can, of course, just duplicate it or create instances. But a more convenient way is to use array modifier. So apply array, and it's you specify offset on the axis, and you specify number of copies. And what's cool that I can use it many times, as many as I want. So I'm going to apply another array modifier now on this array, right? So, but instead of shifting on X, I'm going to shift on Y, and it's doing it in the local space, which is convenient for me in this case. I kind of want them overlap, like for real, but with a little bit of angle. So I need to go to edit mode, and you see, like, I still have the single object right here that I can edit, and so I can rotate it, and they all rotate.
Wow.
Yeah, that's nice. And this looks a lot more interesting, right? And so now I take this, and again, just doing it always modifier. Solidify array, another array, and I'm going to do a mirror. Well, right now we got a little bit in trouble with mirror, because it's basically mirroring. Do you see that orange point? That's where our origin was. So it's mirroring around that point. And also we have a problem with the transforms that are not applied. So we got to fix that.
Was
So
it because of the local versus global?
there's no settings for that in the mirror. So if we had a setting, we can probably sort of figure it out. But mirror here, it's like very primitive. It just uses what it uses, and we need to kind of provide that for it to work. You can do mirror object, but I'm not going to show it now, I think. So we want to reset this little pivot point to be at the center, right here, or like on the bottom, like where the red line is. So we can right click and we do set origin. None of this option that I want. Like there's one is set origin to 3D cursor. So, but I need to position my 3D cursor first. So to position 3D cursor, there's a shortcut Shift S for the cursor. There's all those options for positioning it. So I can just reset it to world origin. So that's just put it back where it was. So now if I right click on this one, I can say set origin to 3D cursor. So now this thing moves in there. So now if I rotate it, rotates around there. So the mirror should work, but there's one more thing that we didn't fix. Because this object, remember, we had like a transform, so it has this rotation baked in. So that's going to also mess up the mirror. So we do want to apply the transforms. I'll do all transform. Oops. Let's do apply rotation. Oh, that's messed up something. You see, Vincent, this might. Oh, Vincent's okay. That might be a situation where I like actually want to. Let's try a mirror if we can figure it out. Yeah, it's not doing it right.
can't draw a plane and mirror across the plane.
Can you do instance? Let's do add D. Move it. And then one trick, you can mirror stuff by just scaling. If you press S and scale on the y-axis, and you type -1. Is it the right axis? Yeah, it's because of this rotation thing, I think. Well, anyway, if you kind of stuck with this, what you can do, you can just apply all the modifiers, and then do apply transform rotation in this case, and then do mirror. In this case, here. We kind of lost our ability to have this, like, you know, nice access to be able to edit it, because now if I edit it, it's just like shit tons of geometry. Like I have to edit, so all this stuff. Yeah, here. This is, you know, what I have to deal with now, because I removed all the modifiers. Yeah, this is it, I guess. There's a lot of tools we looked at. Not mostly tools, but mostly like kind of like a little techniques to use, because we only really look at the like 3 really tools right here in the poly modeling. But we did look a lot of like concept of pivot point, the modifier, the stack, kind of stuff. What's the question? No.
If you wanted to make sure there's no overhang of the shingles, so it's lined up perfectly with the roof, can you slice and do that? Or?
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's another tool in Think for slicing. It's called Knife. This has kind of like a lot of properties. So I go to X-ray. You need to select Knife. So this like cuts on the surface, but you can also cut through. So I can do this. You see on the bottom, the very bottom of the screen, there's like a text, and it's basically lists all the properties of this tool. So you can do. It said C cut through. So if I press C, it activates cut through mode. So now I click, but that's not over. I still need to press enter to apply. So now if I go there, so it created this cut through. So now, the easiest way to sort of remove that overhang there would be, I don't know, actually probably just selecting it from this view. So now I can actually, so selecting this box selection will be awkward here, see? So there's a lasso select, so I can do this and remove vertices. Now you end up with this open faces though, so you probably want to close them. So if you select this, and press F, just close them all.
Is it just adding a surface, or is it actually filling the whole thing?
It's adding a face, which is an n-gon face. Yeah, it does adds actual face. Yeah. And because we had mirror, so it's the same on this side.
Oof.
And mirror, you know, this is kind of like a little boring stuff, but like mirror is pretty powerful because you can create just the concept in itself. So if you create another mirror, and then you can change Well, in this case, I don't want that. Let's use this mirror object. So I create an object that is just like an empty plane axis. And do this. And I position it like right here. So I do this and mirror, use mirror object. So now it's using this as a region. Where's the... I think this mirror should be the bottom. I don't understand where my second half is. Oh, I applied it to the wrong mirror. I should. This is the second mirror, right? Here you go. I'm just being dumb. Here you go. Oh. You know, and then you can keep going like this, and then you can create pretty interesting shapes. Same principle you can do with array. So if you apply array, that might be even more interesting. So array has this object offset mode. I lost my empty. So yeah.
Crazy thing.
The house went crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway.